This video is going to show you some exercise options when recovering from an ankle fracture. This is around the 10-week mark. It does vary patient to patient. Everyone is different, so just use the timescales as a rough guideline. At this point, patients should be fully weight bearing and performing some light cardio in either the form of walking or cycling on a static bike. So at this point, we want to start progressing our balance exercises into something a little bit more dynamic. We can start with something simple as head turns to see if we can maintain balance whilst we're moving our head from side to side. Then ball catches, varying the height and speed of the throws. So we can do some forward and back stabilization. So you're just touching the ground lightly with the heel. As you're taking the leg back, you're touching down with the toe. Trying to keep nice and stable over the hip and the knee, which should stay in line with the foot. Next, we're going to do some single leg divers. This is just going to test the whole stability of the whole lower limb and not just single leg balance. Then we can move on to some single leg balance in the form of a clock face. So you take the non-weight bearing side through each hour, starting at 12 through to 6. Do this in a slow and controlled manner. Once you go through that motion, you can go back to the start from 6 to 12. To make this exercise a little more difficult, you make sure the leg is off the floor at all times. Take a note of how many times you're touching down so this can be improved going forward. Partner pushes can be a fun interactive way of challenging balance. Once we've cracked some of these higher level exercises on a flat surface, it's time to progress introducing an unstable surface. So here you can see I'm using a balance cushion, but you can use Bosu balls, Airex pads, or even a pillow if you're lacking in some equipment. I'd recommend getting used to single leg balance on an unstable surface first, before starting to introduce some of the more challenging progressions we've done previously, such as the ball catches. Ankle strengthening resistant exercises should already be given at this point. However, the majority of the patients will stick to elastic resistance bands like so. So depending on the level of the patient, progressing to power bands will help increase the robustness of the ankle. These thinner versions of power bands are a really useful way of strengthening the ankle. As you can see from the video, I've doubled up the power band around the post as they're quite long bits of elastic. And we can still do our usual eversion, inversion, dorsiflexion movements of the ankle to really strengthen those structures that have been injured. So in terms of calf raises, we want to be progressing onto single leg calf raises, starting off body weight initially. You can carry things like a kettlebell or a weight or wear a backpack, but starting off with body weight is useful exercise to perform to fatigue, so we can compare both limbs when returning from injury. Once we start to bridge the gap between both limbs in terms of strength, we want to start moving on to some higher level progressions. Please check out the ankle sprain, ankle fracture rehabilitation playlist. This is going to have the progressions past this video and trying to bridge the gap between the rehabilitation and returning to sport.